Shread, International Editor of the Cyber Express, and this podcast is coming to you from the Black Hat Security Conference in collaboration with Sujeet Catalyst. And with me to discuss maturing your security program without breaking the bank are Beenu Arora, CEO and co-founder of threat intelligence leader Cyble and a board advisor of Sujeet Catalyst, and Sujeet Bambawale, director and security leader at Synopsys. Welcome, gentlemen. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. Beenu, why don't we start with you? So security teams are always under pressure to do more with limited resources. Are there any easy ways for them to get to better security?
I mean, if there are easier ways, I'm sure people would have it by now already. But here's my opinion. So I think the last 25 years, the entire cyber threat landscape has completely changed, or it's evolving every day now. That's the fundamental problems which we as security managers are going to be facing, including at Cyble for that matter. If you look at the current tooling, for an example, organization have got a bunch of tools right now which is acting on different lines of defenses. Many times those tools or tooling are not actually effectively working together. And the orchestration is still a biggest problem in terms of achieving automation or getting more productivity out of people. So coming back to this, to your question, I think the teams today are currently having a lot of challenges with the alert fatigues, different platforms which are requiring significant investments and ongoing maintenance and configurations. And the third part is there's not enough resources which the CISOs or security managers are currently getting from their top management teams. They're asked to do more with less. Now, what the good thing is in terms of everything, the problems which are facing is that this whole AI gold rush has unleashed significant opportunities, not just for the threat actors for sure, but also for the defenders like us. So today, if you look at, there are some remarkable companies which have come on the table, which are able to rapidly analyze and correlate plethora of information from different sources together and they use a lot of advanced, large language models on the back of it, ultimately helping us to make decisions faster and with higher quality. I think that's where we're seeing a significant shift in terms of the overall performance and the productivity of the security analysts or staff on the ground, especially on the front lines. I think that's where the real alpha is currently sitting in, and something which we even as Cyble are heavily betting upon. So that's my opinion.
Interesting. All right. Sujeet, how can security teams figure out what tools and controls they really need? What are some good ways for them to get there?
Fundamentals require you to understand the business. Understanding the business, understanding your revenue chain, and understanding your cost centers will let you get a good grip on who's trying to attack you, what are they trying to attack, what has been attacked in the recent past, what has succeeded, unfortunately, and what has failed. Now, the failures should be pragmatic decisions. You should be able to trace the failure of an attack to a safeguard that was put in place mindfully. But most importantly, it's important to know your threat landscape. Why they are attacking you, what they are trying to monetize, and how is it sold on any kind of dark market to create an ROI for the threat actor. This chain is extremely important for security leaders to internalize. Without that awareness, crafting the right mix of security safeguards and controls, irrespective of budget, would be a challenge. So when you have that awareness of why you're being attacked, by whom you're being attacked, primarily, we used to call it spray and pray. And the spray and pray attacks are like every server on the internet being polled every 45 seconds. Things to worry about, but not things to sweat. What I'd sweat is being targeted. And learning who is targeting you and why will let you build the right set of capabilities for your organization. Budgets come later. As we just heard, we are in a time where I won't call it AI, I'll say self-learning, self-correcting, and self-calibrating technologies have powered a huge amount of innovation. And what that's done is it's allowed a lot of very smart young folks to create and manifest their ideas into operational reality, which has also created a lot of opportunities for perhaps folks with not huge budgets. Because I imagine that giving an opportunity to a young company to work with you is as important to the young company as it is to you with perhaps a less than huge budget. So I think collectives like this at Black Hat, collectives like what's being created here, are great opportunities to understand what's the art of the possible, but it all goes back to your threat landscape.
It's a great answer. Thank you. Beenu, can you give us some general examples of companies that were able to make a big difference with a few technologies that turned out to be a game changer?
I mean, there are many of these examples, and I think if you look at, for the last 10 or 12 years, the team originally started with a threat intel platform where a lot of players actually came in and they created a solution where you can then process the indicators at scale and then work in orchestration with the tooling companies, including likes of Palo Altos and the others, to mitigate the threat. So, if you look at the entire the line of defenses for companies, whether it's a proactive threat detection or external threat detection or management capabilities, and you look at orchestration layers, or you look at the SIEM technologies, or if you go further into enterprises with the networking of firewalls and EDR, email, I think there's a lot of innovations that has happened in the last 10 years. I think it happened across every facet on where the threats are coming in. Like email security, for example, there's an amazing startup out there like Abnormal Security, which is doing amazing work in terms of the filtering of these email originating threats out there. So I don't think there's only one or two companies there, but I think what we are seeing or experiencing is a lot of the companies, or the new age companies, which are using a lot of memory-based systems where they're continuously learning about the threats and then being able to not just predict, but also being able to take proactive defensive measures to stop those attacks from happening. I think that's where real value is also being driven, and they're able to articulate that pretty well. So I'll give you a classic example, like even in the case of Cyble, for example, it's not just about, processing the indicators which you are collecting or you are gathering from your scanning or your honeypots, whatever it may be, but then finding those, very discrete relationships between the different data points, which previously humanly was not practical or not possible. I think that's where a lot of value is currently sitting in, and that's where I think the entire, I think AI native based platforms are becoming a lot more powerful in terms of generating those insights which are previously unknown. So there's a whole thing about known unknown and unknown unknown. I think what AI is really helping us is scratching the surface of those unknown unknowns which we were previously not even aware of it. I think that's where we see a tons of innovation. And there are many companies and startups, many of them are actually coming from Y Combinator, which is an accelerator, and Cyble was also part of it. I think that there are some real innovations on people are doing when it comes to agentic based or non-deterministic based workflows in terms of not just threat detection, but also the entire remediation lifecycle, which many times even analysts are skipping it, or they're going to oversight it because of the playbooks are not updated, whatever it is. So I think those are becoming some of the most interesting startups coming in this space.
Interesting. Actually, can I stay with that thought for just a second? What do you see in terms of platforms? Are they promising to make things easier?
I mean, I'm sure Sujeet would agree to it. I mean, solutions. I mean, there's so many point solutions in the market right now. I think if you look at just an intelligence-based, companies, I mean, there was a time when you used to have a separate company for brand management, a separate company for dark web monitoring, a separate company for ASM. Uh, I think what happened was, and this is again from my own personal experiences and my corporate life, you end up buying 50 or 80 different solutions, and all are having their own fancy dashboards, all are screaming and yelling that the sky is falling. And generally, I was leading the entire cyber defense practice for the largest mining company in those days. You end up thinking about like what are the biggest threats I need to deploy my efforts and humans on. Everything is looking red. It's just different tools are yelling and screaming on their own voices. They are not really contextually aware of what I really care about. Like what Sujeet was saying, the context was missing in those technologies. I think what is shifting, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, is that organizations are becoming more interested towards of a platform play. They like to see a platform where they have all those different point solutions converging together, and also who are context aware of the enterprises and give us a lot more pointy recommendations in terms of where are the efforts that needs to be placed in. More importantly, like these are top issues I need to deal with today, and then the other ones I can probably think about tomorrow morning, and if I have the budget for dealing with it. I think that's where a lot of ROI is sitting in, especially given that the budgets are shrinking. I mean, this is not like making a claim. I think every CISO is currently struggling to keep and retain their current budget, let alone being able to do more experimentation, more things. So three things which I'm seeing is budgets are shrinking. People are asked to do more with less. Very similar thing like what we saw 2 years ago. What we are also observing is point solutions are not necessarily giving us the most advantageous alpha to the CISOs and to the business. And they are looking for more integrated view. But not just integrated, like they're not bolted together or stitched together. It's like there's a common fabric running between these technologies. Companies like Palo Alto have done remarkably well in that space because they kind of go with the entire platform story. And I think Cyble is also deeply inspired with this whole platform play. And that's why we have these solutions in different facets, including in the endpoint now. The third part is, I think the whole, the automation, as Sujeet was saying, automation is going to become a very important aspect in the future, especially if you want to get more productivity gain with the existing teams. And I think AI is going to help us a lot. And obviously, when you look at ChatGPT today, you can see the sequences, which it actually writes a plan on how to respond to certain type of questions or certain type of challenges you throw at it. And it's very, it actually has a dual brain architecture behind it, very similar to what we do. And it does the sequencing and it tells, okay, this is the path I should be taking in to solve this problem. I think those non-deterministic workflows, which eventually is going to get embedded into the SOC L1 and L2 teams, which is going to give us as security managers more leeway to experiment with other bold initiatives in the market. Otherwise, it's going to become a problem of keep on buying new solutions, but none of them actually are giving us a true ROI and helping us to articulate that into the business on what did I do with it really.
Yeah. Huh. One other question: if you had to give someone advice, what one place would you tell them to start to make their security better?
Maybe this can segue off of your prior question of platforms. Platforms work for decisioning and licensing. A platform will help you minimize or optimize tool fluency. A platform will also help you minimize or optimize churn between enrichment. The more tools you have, the more tool fluency you will need. The more tool fluency you need, the more retraining you will need when you change tools, or the more retraining you will need to preserve the talent that you have onboarded to maintain those tools. And the maintenance of those tools is aligned with the capabilities that you want to preserve and enhance your company's security posture. Now, the decisioning based on these things, if it is consolidated by a platform, and that platform also helps enrich other parts of your security fabric with contextual information, with severity information, then you have different endpoints of your security fabric effectively having a cohesive message. And that cohesive message lets all parts of information security function as a team and as a whole, which unifies the message to the rest of the organization. Now, licensing becomes an interesting part of tool sprawl as well, going back to platforms. The more tools that you have, the more complex your licensing calendar gets. And as far as I know, no tool is reducing in cost. So your budget goes into more of a negative variance, or it can go into more of a negative variance as you renew or consolidate and so on and so forth. So threading this to your question, I think having a good story on what we want to train our teams on, what we want to retain talent for, and then use agentic AI or other workflows to automate what's fairly high effort, low value for our teams, will let us elevate our teams to do higher order work. And I think that's really how leaders should up-level their teams to support the company.
That's a great answer. Beenu, any thoughts on that one?
I think when I spoke to some of the teams in the past, and I like what Sujeet said earlier about, I think understanding the business is probably the most critical aspect when you are building up a security program or designing your layers of defenses, right? Like in the context of when I was working with a mining company, understanding on how they make money to begin with is the most challenging bit. So you dig the ground, you extract the commodities, sell to the market. I think a lot of security teams, when they come on board, they don't necessarily understand the importance of understanding the value chain. Tooling, obviously is critical. Platformization is becoming a mainstream theme now, but I think the fundamentals are still hold strong, especially in the context of understanding your business itself. Because without that, I think there's no way you can have, a robust or logical plan to win in the future. That's all. This is all about strategy. It's all about logical way to win something, right? In my opinion, it all, the basics, still hold solid here. Understand your business. Understand how you create value there. Understand like what Sujeet was saying earlier. What threats have you experienced over the years or over the recent past, and then creating a robust plan around how you can mitigate those threats. I think those are still the bedrock, and I think hold solid in today's era as well. And I wouldn't recommend any specific plan or strategy at this stage. I think for any security analyst, who's coming in, or a security engineer joining a company, I think the first thing is understanding about the company itself is the most important aspect to learn.
All right. Well, I would like to thank our guests, Beenu Arora of Cyble and Sujeet Bambawale of Synopsys, for their insights today. Gentlemen, it's been great to have you. Awesome stuff.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much,
having
Paul.
us.